Hi folks, welcome to the first edition of the Marksheets tutorial. I say first edition because there are likely to be more editions and more refinements and basically addendums as we go. But there's some to go through, so let's not dawdle, crack on. So the first thing to do, I have said this in email, so many of you might have done it already, is to go into your Dropbox folder and grab this Marksheets folder. Now what we have done is we have made some adjustments to the templates in this Dropbox folder, and so you can simply replace the Marksheets folder wherever you have copied it with this one. So bear in mind that that when you generate the Marksheets, you generate blank Marksheets, and so they can replace previous Marksheets if you have generated them already. So you can generate them again, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about as we go through this tutorial. Now, and you know, we will make refinements to the templates, and indeed you can, on your side, you can. This is the reason we work off a template, because you can change colors and things like that, and edit them and make them more prettier if you want. But for instance, we want to add a work not handed in column. There are a couple of schools that have that on their reports, and as I say, we'll dive into those things more readily as we go through the tutorial. But okay, so in any event, you copy this, and now you can copy this and paste it anywhere really on your computer. But let's say you copy it into your ISOF folder. All right, in my case, I've made subfolders in the ISOF folder. Okay, and I copied it in there. What I actually have been doing is testing with my brother and I with our Inside Software Solutions team site, which is through the Microsoft 365 portal, which essentially is a cloud folder, much like Dropbox. But because it's Microsoft, it brings with a whole lot more value. And at the end of this tutorial, I'm going to tack on a little bit about what that is, and then I want to make more advanced tutorials later on, and I'm going to show you how you can operate this thing through the cloud, and it is quite remarkable. But in any event, you can see I've placed my Marksheets folder in this location. As I say, this could be any location. Many schools have a staff shared folder on the network where staff keep work and access work and pamphlets that they are given, or even templates for Word documents. There are all kinds of things. There's a staff shared folder at your school, so you can put it on there, for instance. Now, what you need to do is then open FrontOFFICE. Okay. Sorry, I realized that while I was talking that I'm actually had this folder open on my other screen, but what I meant was so I've got my Marksheets folder in my my Inside Software Solutions team folder. Okay, but as I say, you can put it in your CISOF folder. I beg your pardon, or as I say, anywhere. So if I just go to the ISOF folder so that you can see it on the screen. Okay. Again. Okay, so I had it in something like that. You can put it on your desktop even. What you can do is you can put it on your local drive. So say in your CISOF folder, run this whole thing locally, and once your Marksheets are produced, you can copy the folder and put it onto the staff shared drive. So it could be might be an idea running it so that it's running locally. It might speed up the process a bit, and then copy and paste the Marksheet folder onto the staff shared drive. So okay, and you'll understand more about what I'm talking about just now, because what we're going to do basically first is we're going to generate these Marksheets. Okay, for the teachers to use. Blank mark sheets with the learners' names in and the columns already and demarcated and what have you, exactly according to the SAMS profiles as they are set up according to the 2018 SAMS curriculum that the patch 18.0 patched SAMS to, which you should all be on now because you've all done your first submissions for the year. Okay, so in front office, the first thing to do to make sure is please go to set classes and click this populate TT class codes. Now, many of you have asked me what the TT class codes are. They are a combination of the staff records timetable code, okay, and it will be somewhat worth the teachers knowing their timetable code. I'll show you that now, but it's not, 100% required, and you'll see what I mean now. So it's a combination of the teacher's timetable code and the I'm capturing my screen at the moment so I can make this recording for you, and it uses a lot of memory on my computer, so it's not exactly fast, but anyway. So you will see that it is, and then it concatenates, all right, the timetable code, the subject short for the particular subject, so in this case physical science, and the set name, so in this case grade 12 class 7-1. Okay, and people name their sets various things in their schools. In the primary schools, they very often just call the class by the teacher's initials or ABCD or anything like that. And so what this does is this actually gives you a unique code for each and every class in the school, much like your class ID, right? In this case, where's the class ID? Sorry, let's go. Much like class ID. Class ID is a unique code, but it's just a number, so it doesn't really mean anything to you. Whereas this is something that kind of explains to you exactly what the class is just by looking at the TT class code. Okay, so this TT class code is relevant specifically for these mark sheets, and also, as I've mentioned before, and it's a completely different topic, but just to mention it, for those who use ACS timetabling, it is a way that you can allow the front office system and ACS timetabling to talk to each other. It's something that one of our users is currently building, and actually, on that note, that Mr. Tim Atwell is from Ashawi has been an amazing addition to the front office community, and a lot of what we are doing here, actually, in terms of this academic building, a lot of the groundwork and the framework has been built by Tim, and we've taken it and now implemented on en masse. So a huge thank you to everything that he has contributed towards this. And then, of course, what would I be without my wonderful brother who has taken this and run with it, and just it's remarkable. That's all I can say. Okay, so you open your Marksheet Manager. What we'll do is we will produce one class to start with. Okay, so let's say we go to term 1. Now, in my case, I'm going to tell it that where I've put my Marksheets folder, okay, which is on my Microsoft Teams site. Okay, it's basically OneDrive, but for our specific team. And to note here that every school, according to the Microsoft Schools Agreement, gets a free can operate Microsoft 365 free in their school, and that you get X amount of cloud space. Every teacher gets X amount of cloud space, up to 1 terabyte each, I believe, which is massive amounts of space. And as I'll show later, it opens up all sorts of possibilities. So now I'm telling it where my Marksheets folder is. Okay, and my Marksheets folder is in this location over here. Okay. So all I'm going to do is click OK, and it's going to paste this location in here. Now, for those of you, if you are receiving an error at this point saying field is too small to insert data, it is because there is a field update that hasn't increased the size of the characters allowed in this field, and your update process might have been skipping this update because the data file of front office was in use at time of running the update, and it's been trying to run every single time you've run the updates, but the data file has been in use. In order to rectify this, go to global settings and lock front office and give it 10 minutes so that it kicks everyone on the network off front office. Then run your front office updater again when you start the program, and it will find that update that it skipped, it will run it, and it will increase the size of this field, and you will be able to you'll be able to paste. You can see how long my actual pathway is. You'll be able to paste longer pathways in here. I can actually tell you the update itself is update, I think it is that's it's going to be an adjust field property update, so we can filter on that, and it's going to be update 55 that actually does that. So if you come to your update log and update 55 is unchecked, then you'll know that that update still needs to run in order for you to paste longer pathways into your Marksheet manager form. So right now we've told it where the Marksheets folder is. Okay, so in this case I'm just going to run one class. Let's say we go and run accounting 1062 in this case, and say create Marksheet. What we'll do is later on I'll come back to this and show you how you wouldn't choose a class. You would just click create Marksheets, and it'll rifle through the entire school and put them into the various phases that they're in. It'll create that folder structure, and I'll show you what I mean now. Incidentally, that message that popped up said you are going to overwrite the Marksheets that currently exist. That's totally fine, because as I say, when you create these Marksheets, what you're doing is you're creating blank Marksheets that they're going to copy and paste to wherever it is they want it. Okay, so it's created that Marksheet. So we can actually go and have a look at this Marksheet now itself. Okay, if we go to our front office folder, or Marksheets folder should I say, or wherever yours happens to be. Okay, and we go term 1, and it's phase 4 because it's grade 10 accounting, and we can see it's this one here, right? It's accounting 1062. So you can see the staff members' timetable code is on the front, and look, eventually they will get to know their timetable codes, and it takes a couple of cycles to get used to, but when we've had schools running these things, they've said that once they get the hang of it, it's very simple. But as I say, it's not imperative, because you can actually see from the subject short accounting and the set 1062 which is your Marksheet. Now what you can do from here, and there's a number of ways to do this, guys, like as I say, you can put the Marksheets folder on the shared staff folder on the server, and the staff can come in and grab their Marksheets and copy them across to their computer. They can copy them onto their own flash drive. There are some schools who have said no, what they want teachers to do is bring them their flash drive, and they're going to put their classes onto the flash drive for them. Now the beauty of doing this in Excel, right, which we're doing now, is that Excel is an incredibly cross-platform friendly piece of software. In fact, it's one of the best pieces of software ever written. Any programmer worth his salt will acknowledge that. And it means that actually you can put this thing, you can open it on an Apple device, an Android device, a Microsoft device, whether it's a tablet, whether it's a computer, whether it's a laptop, it's irrelevant, and I'll actually show that you can open it on a web browser as well now, which is specifically why I've put this into my cloud folder. But as I said, we'll dive into that at the end of this tutorial. I might actually break this tutorial up into two parts. sorry, I realized again that I had my folders on my other screen that you wouldn't be looking at. But anyway, there it is there. So there's the teacher's timetable code, there is the subject short, and there is the set. So they can identify the file in that way. So let's say they go, and I'm just going to open this directly in here. I'm not going to take it anywhere else or put it anywhere else for now. So we'll open this file. Okay. Okay. Now simply click Edit Workbook at the top if it's asking you to do so. Right, now you will see that you have the learners that are in this class. You have the marks that it is out of. Now in SAMS, they simply call this task 1 and task 2. Now according to your CAPS documents, they would specify for accounting, for instance, what these tasks are. They may just be 2 tests, 1 out of 50 and 1 out of 100. Now you notice that these, in this case, they're weighted 25-75. Now this is not a contribution weighting, right? If it was a contribution weighting, it would be 33.3 recurring and 66.6 recurring. A third, 2/3 in other words, because 50 and 100 together is 150, and 50 out of 150 would be a third, which is 33%. But actually they're telling you that this is 25%, counts a quarter. So the mark is weighted, and I've tested entering the marks directly into SAMS, and essentially what they do is they calculate the percentage for the first test, they multiply it by the weighting, they calculate the percentage for the second test, they multiply it by the weighting, and then they add those two together and divide them by the sum of the weightings. Okay, so let's enter some marks here. So let's say we got 28 and 29. Okay, and let's say 67, 68. Right. Now, this is, I'm going to basically give you a quick rundown on how to build the formula in here. Now, you wouldn't need to actually build the formula in order for the mark to go through to SA SAMS, because these marks will post through to SA SAMS in the screen that I'll show you in a bit. And when you open the sheets in SA SAMS to view these marks, it automatically calculates the result column, the report mark column. Now this is the mark that you are going to want to post through to front office. Okay, so this is a simple formula building exercise. You can follow quite simply exactly what I'm doing to build your formulas. Now it might not seem that evident now in terms of why we would be building our own formulas in here, but you'll see that when it comes to term 2 and so on, that it will become relevant. But okay, so quite simply to say that what you're saying is it's the mark multiplied by, so I beg your pardon, divided by the max mark, but divided by the mark that it's out of, in other words, multiplied by 100, okay, so that gives you the percentage, and then multiplied by the weighting. Okay, now when you copy and paste this formula down, you're going to want the mark that it's referencing to change, but you're going to want these two, the max mark and the weight, to stay constant. So what you do in order to do that is you put a $sign, okay, and you don't have to worry too much, folks, just do exactly what I'm doing that's relevant for your sheet. Okay, so that is, and then what you're going to do is you're going to say that whole thing plus, and again, you're going to say, may as well put it in brackets, right, that divided by that multiplied by 100 multiplied by that. Okay, now we want to say this entire operation divided by the sum of the weightings. Okay, sum open brackets. We can just stretch the mouse across there so it finds them. Now, again, what we want to be doing is we want to be holding the E6, right, which is the weighting for the second assessment. We want to be holding it constant, and I'll explain what that means now. And we want to be holding the sum of the weights constant as well. Okay, so basically what that means is, right, so there it comes out with a mark. Now what that means is when I copy and paste this mark down, okay, obviously we want it to, okay, so, sorry, I missed a dollar sign here on the, okay, so anywhere where we are referencing these two top rows, we want to be holding them constant so that when we copy and paste the formula down, these stay constant, but it jumps down to the next mark. Okay, and again, I'll show you, I'll demonstrate what I mean. So when we copy this and we paste it down, okay, what it's done there is it's jumped down to reference these two, but it stayed at the top referencing those cells. Okay, so again, if I copy it and paste it, what it's done is it's jumped to the third set of marks, okay, but it stayed referencing these two top ones. It hasn't stayed. Okay, so you can see where I don't have the dollar sign, so D11 and E11, which is these two marks, I don't have the dollar signs. When you copy and paste the formula down, it follows you. It just goes to the next set of marks and the next set of marks. But where I do have the dollar signs, which is when referencing these cells, whenever I copy and paste, it doesn't jump down to the cells below these to reference them. It stays where they are. Okay, again, you don't have to understand that in depth. You can basically follow my structure. I've tested loads of different subject structures in SAMS, and they all follow this same pattern. Okay, now just as an aside, if you did try to enter a mark that is higher than the max mark, okay, so if I entered 101, for instance, it's going to tell you that it's too high. It doesn't match the data validation restrictions defined for the cell. In other words, you can only enter something that the cell, you can only enter something less than the max mark. Okay, so that's, you've entered your marks. Now you could also enter comment codes, okay, in here, right? And in some cases, let's say you decided you wanted to enter your own comment, blah 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 blah. Okay. Now, one other thing to remember is that we've introduced our own custom row here, and this is a report display 1 to 10. This report display 1 to 10 refers to the term 1 to 10 columns in FrontOFFICE. In other words, and we're going to change the names, the labeling of those from term 1 to 10 to say report display 1 to 10 for good reason, and you'll see as we go through the year why we've done this. But all you have to do is you have to tell it which column you want to go into which column in FrontOFFICE. So quite simply, we want it to go into the term 1 or the report display 1 column in FrontOFFICE. And you'll see what I mean. So that goes into the term 1 column, and that is what will go onto the reports in front office, while this all simultaneously will filter through into SAMs. Okay, so you close that and you save it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this file, okay, and I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to put it into a folder called completed. So what would be good for you to do is then, so you've got your Marksheets folder sitting on your shared drive at school, or you've given it to them on their flash drives or whatever. They keep that file there, they take it, they work on it. When they're finished with it, okay, and I would suggest they don't work on the Marksheets folder directly. Because if you generate new Marksheets, they're going to replace ones in there with blank Marksheets. So once they've gone and fetched their Marksheet from the Marksheets folder, they should put it on their flash drive or put it on their local computer or whatever and work with it wherever they want to work with it. Like you can work off it straight off the flash drive if they want. Once they're finished, they then give you the file, okay, and you put the file into this completed folder over here, okay, which I've done. Now again, as I say, once we hit the level of working off the cloud, it opens a whole new ball game. But for now, obviously, just work off your folders, and as I say, I'll show you some neat stuff. And again, I'll show you some snippets of the neat stuff in this tutorial, but in the more advanced tutorials we'll show you some uber cool stuff. Okay, so now what I can do is and don't worry again that my folder is sitting with that little synchronization thing. For now, that's got nothing to do with anything. This is simply a folder on your computer, or as I say, on your network. Okay, so now you go back to your Excel Marksheet Manager. Okay, we tell it term 1, and now quite simply you browse to this folder and you tell it you are looking for the completed folder. Okay, so what it's going to do is it's going to find any files that are in the completed folder. It's going to rifle through them one by one. You can do it at any time. Say 5 teachers have given you some of their classes that are complete. You can go in there and import marks and do an export to SAMs and go and have a look and see how it's coming through. You don't have to worry and wait that everybody has to be finished before you can do any of this. Okay, so you click import marks. It's going to tell you that any marks you have in here are going to be overwritten, which is fine, because if they're already finished, it's just going to overwrite them with the same marks. If they haven't given you marks yet, that's what you want. You want them to be overwritten with the marks that have occurred. Okay. Okay, so you'll see it's found 3 spreadsheets in that folder, which was correct. Okay, I had 3 from others that I was testing before. And it's gone through all 3 of them. Right, then you click this split tasks and activities. Not something that you actually have to worry about, but as a brief explanation, you'll notice that on the spreadsheets that we have, you see in SAMs, in your spreadsheets on their program, and a task is something that you enter a mark into. Say it's a test, but you do have tasks that have multiple activities within that task. So in the SAM spreadsheet, you'd see 2 activity columns and then a task column that shows the total. Whereas in the spreadsheets we're making it simpler for the teachers. The 2 activities that would display just show as tasks 1 and 2. Okay, and they'll have if it's English and if one of them is creative writing and one of them's oral, it'll say in the description at the top creative writing and oral. And and when it goes through to SAMs, that total task column for those 2 activities will show, and it will total as it should do. Okay, so all that's happening when we click the split tasks and activities is we're telling it to do that. It's going and because each of these tasks actually carries an ID, a specific unique ID that we've got the system to pick out from SAMs and to allocate to those columns. So it will it knows which of the columns you entering in our spreadsheets are tasks and which are activities. So you don't need to worry about that. The teachers don't need to worry about that. All they need to do is do the assessments where the assessments are required and enter the marks for those assessments. Whether they be tests, whether they be pracs, whether they be exams, whatever the case might be. Okay, pat, whatever it is. Alright, so we say okay. That goes and works out its thing. Okay, it's going to say all marks posted to learner CAS activities. And now you click post to front office. Okay. Now what this is going to do is this is going to go now store these marks. So all tasks are transferred. All activities are transferred. This is kind of like a backup as well because it's storing all of this in the front office files. Now all front office report display marks transferred to selected terms. So in other words, the one that you allocated above that report mark column in the Excel spreadsheet is going to tell it to go to the term 1 column in front office, and I'll show you what I mean. All marks transferred to front office, so you can now run the export to SAMs. Okay. So this exit sign will become ungray, become active, should I say, so that you can exit that screen. And let's go and just have a look and see who the accounting 1062 teacher was. Say X, right, accounting 1062 is Mr. T. Naidu in this case. So let's go to marks and comments. Mr. T. Naidu. We're going to be making loads of changes this year, guys, and the screen is going to, I'm going to be introducing a lot of things here, but essentially if you do get these parameter values, this is something I'm going to add in an upcoming update. Don't worry, just click OK. But essentially why I'm saying we'll be making changes is, for example, these term columns are not going to be known as terms anymore. They're going to be known as report display 1 to 10, because that essentially is what you use front office for, to produce, well, for lots, but one of the key features is to produce reports. And you're going to have columns that you display marks in your reports. Nothing has to change. Nothing has to change in terms of the design. It's still going to reference the same thing. All we're going to do is we're going to change the label to say report display 1. We're moving away from labeling them terms because it's misleading. If your terms 1 to 10 is misleading, it's actually just mark display columns from 1 to 10 that you can weight in any way you choose for them to come out as a result, so to speak, on your report. And as I say, we will refine these things, and we will explain these things in detail as we move into term 2, 3, and end of the year, and so on. So you can see now that the marks that we entered into the spreadsheet have come through to front office. So there's those schools that have secretaries or admin staff that capture all of the marks for all of the kids for all of the year. Don't need to do that anymore. It will come from the spreadsheets that the teachers use. The comment has come through as well. The comment codes has come through, so it's found the comment. Okay, and even those comments that we captured ourselves, it's found that comment. And of course you will know that the report works out whether they have used a preset comment or an own comment. It doesn't matter in which combination, whichever combination you do it, it'll figure it out. So there are the marks for that class. Now what we do to push those marks through to SA SAMs, we simply do an export. Now you'll notice that in a recent update, if I remember to do it before I go to bed tonight, that we've changed the terminology here from export to synchronize. And this is actually a more accurate way of looking at the way that front office interacts with SA SAMs. It isn't an export process per se. It is actually a synchronization process. And it is actually a process that is enabling through, dare I say, intelligent design, the systems to interact with each other, for front office to monitor and look at both systems and synchronize the data between them, so that data that is sitting in SA SAMS is truly SA SAMS data and isn't actually, in a sense, interfered with. The data structures and the validity of SAMS is not tampered with and broken like in certain other instances, and possibly systems that are running exports that are causing major errors in SAMS and causing the department lots of headaches. Ours is very smooth and easy transition, and I can give you a quick demonstration here. I can just click this table, link to SAMS tables, just so that you can see. And if I actually go to our tables, and type in SAMS, all of the SAMS tables are prefixed with the word SAMS. This, for instance, here is the SAMS Learner Info table. There it is sitting in front office. It's got nothing to do with front office. If I go and change a name here of a child, that is not going to change the name in front office. Okay, so we are able to build record sets, okay, where I can take the SAMS learner table, our learner tables, put them together and have them speak directly to each other. So it is a far more succinct, accurate way of having these systems interact with you. We're not dealing with a third receptacle or repository, so to speak, where data has to be pushed into and the formats have to be changed. You're dealing with 3 or 4 sets of more connection strings than you are when front office has these systems talking to each other. And by maybe pure stroke of luck, we happen to be on the same data format as theirs, and so front office wins in that respect, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Right, so we've clicked chosen term 1, so we're just going to click update now. Okay, when it says updating complete, now you'll see you can run either 3A or 3B, okay, synchronize true SAMS data or synchronize true mark sync. So SAMS true mark sync. Now, obviously, and we use the word true to indicate that what we are dealing with here is true SAMS data. At the end of 2017, when particularly the Durban district, Umlazi district, announced that schools would have to capture all the marks for the year, there was a backlash, and principals banded together and said, look, this is a really unreasonable request. And the front office headmasters said that our service provider is able to get the final mark into SAMS so that we can produce schedules from SAMS, but at the final year mark without having to have input all the activity marks for the year. That's actually this table here, SAMS report marks. This is where the mark you could stick into. So they released a circular saying that fine, and it wasn't actually an official circular because they actually said in point number 2 or 3, I think, of that circular, we're going to take a chance, I think were the words used, gamble, so to speak, that we will allow for this to take place, but from next year only true SAMS databases will be accepted. In other words, all your activities have to be in. Now, obviously they were expecting that all the activities would have to be captured straight into SAMS therefore, but in the case of front office, once again, because we can pull straight into their tables, these are their activities tables, we can use their profile tables to actually produce the exact same mark sheets as SAMS by batch. And as you can see now, what we're doing right now is that actually being able to pull the marks in. So if you do not have any leavers or new arrivals, then there's no need to synchronize the actual full data. You can just use the SAMS true mark synchronization button. Okay, so you click that. Okay, and so once it's done, it will tell you curriculum data in SAMS have been synced to front office. And what we can now do is go to SASAMS itself. Okay, Department of Basic Education, ain't that the truth? Schrader R. Right, and we'll go to 12, grade 10, accounting, 1062, and you can see all the marks are in, and these would be the same marks as we had in front office. It is in actual fact possible to check this. Okay, so you can see the 64.25, 65.5, 66.75. So these total weighted marks being generated in SAMS aren't actually coming from this term column. Remember that the formula we wrote into that Excel document is what pulled these marks into the term column. And it's the formula that I have done through testing and looking at how they've arrived at these marks in SASAMS. Have derived, and it allows the systems to mimic each other perfectly. Right, now, and these comments incidentally don't push through to SAMS. They're not SAMS. You're not using SAMS for reporting purposes, communication with the parents, so the comments are not relevant in that sense. What you're using SAMS for is to produce the schedules and all the departmental related stats that they normally require, whether on the admin side or the academic side. So the comments are a completely customized thing anyway per school. Each and every school has totally developed their own sets of comments, which is actually in this this edit comments button, and as I say, is very comprehensive and very specific to schools, and actually has absolutely nothing to do with SAMS. Right, so at this stage, pretty much the only thing that admin staff may be capturing, and it varies from school to school, sometimes the class teachers do it themselves, sometimes admin staff, is the actual global comments for the reports in the for the class teacher comments or HOD comments at the bottom of the report. But in terms of the marks and subject comments, as you can see, they are pulled from the Marksheets themselves. And as you can see, the marks are pushed through to SAMS. Now, just as a sort of, as I said, as a kind of taster or tester or final thought towards sort of more advanced tutorials, you'll notice that, as I had mentioned in the beginning of the tutorial, that I had actually placed these things into my Insight Software Solutions team site, okay, which through my Office 365 account, which as I say you all get for free through the Microsoft Schools agreement, we developed a team site which looks something like, that's train tickets, not that, which looks something like this. Okay, this is my 365 portal, my SharePoint site, under the SharePoint where we developed this site. So we have synced, so this automatically synchronizes. So you would notice that the file that I was capturing in the Marksheets folder, okay, which was the accounting 1062. Now, I did not do anything on the shared site, on the website, okay, at all during the thing. All I did was capture into this local file on my local folder, okay, but like Dropbox, it synchronizes to the cloud. So this is now my folder online, okay, in a web browser, which other people who are shared to can open. So Kyle, for instance, who's shared to this, can open this, and it is my accounting 1062. There it is there. It's synced to the... You'll notice when you looked at the screen just before that it wasn't there. I just refreshed the screen so that it showed me what was new, anything new that had come from that folder. And there indeed is the document that we've just captured, complete with everything. Now what is amazing is that two people can edit this document at the same time. And this is not a remote sharing screen. This is not like TeamViewer or anything like this. Is actually the Excel document itself. Now I can, for instance, work on that one Excel document even in my local folder, and Carl can work on a completely different column. I could do column 2, and we tested this today. And he could do column 1, and they would upload and they would merge. Or we could go onto this site and access the folder on the cloud itself. And while I'm working, I can actually see Carl's icon. See where I click here, you can see a little green square. I could see Carl's icon in blue, and on his in red. And in his side, his square was green, and mine was floating around red wherever I was. It's like a computer game almost. So I was sitting here putting formulas and working on this thing, and he was sitting in putting marks and what have you on there. And this may become useful and relevant later, at a later point down the road, when you've got, say, it's a SS where you've got history and geography, and one teacher's working on the history and the other teacher's working on the geography. Currently the way it works is that they each get their own one. And the history teacher will enter their marks and the geography teacher will enter their marks. They won't see each other's marks until they're actually pushed through onto SA SANS. Okay, and I will release a few more tutorials on a few more examples of, say, let's say phase 3 classes, a couple more subjects, just to try and get a kind of wide variety. But the next tutorial I'm going to produce is a basic tutorial for teachers, just so that, as if I was a teacher and I was just going to fetch my Excel sheet from the Marksheet folder that was already produced by the administrator and copy it to wherever, my desktop, my flash drive. As I say, it can be your phone, it can be your Apple phone, it doesn't matter. Excel is compatible across all platforms nowadays. So, and show them just basically their mark entry, their comment code entry or own comment entry, a simple formula building exercise. Again, you can disseminate this information properly if you manage your systems properly in your school. Have your academic heads sit down and show them what's happening with the formula if they don't 100% understand it. Some people do, some people don't. Some people are very good in Excel, but the basics are in place. And they can use these tutorials, follow them, and understand, have a much deeper understanding what to do. And if they're slightly shaky on that, grab a colleague who's all over it and does know what I'm talking about and what's going on, and you'll be able to make life very easy for yourself. So guys, this is the Holy Grail. This is what we've been going for so long. This is what Carl and I have been working so hard towards, and that is basically that you capture all your marks in one place, and from there they filter through everywhere, whether it's front office, whether it's SAMs, to reports, to spread, what they filter through to wherever it needs to go. There's no more multiple capturing in different places. It will all work itself out from here. That concludes this tutorial, and there will be follow-up tutorials based on this, but this is the basic framework for all of this. As I say, we will be adding more columns. In term 2, we will be showing you how you would put in your class mark and exam class mark. For some schools, they put the term 2 class mark into term 2, for example, and so they would put a 2 above that. And I just have to tell it I'm editing this workbook. Okay, sorry, edit to copy. But I'm working directly off the cloud here. This is nothing you really need to worry. Don't worry about it. Okay, save. Alright, sorry, let's just, okay, close this. I'd like to just show you briefly, just as a little taster and a test for what I'm talking about. Maybe to help you understand that one that I put above the report mark column, but I think you get the gist of that, because that is what goes into the front office report. Okay, so just to expand on what I was saying, so for instance in term 2, some of you enter the class mark into term 2, and as I say, we're going to move away from calling it term 2, we're going to call it report display 2. Okay, and you enter your exam mark into report display 5. Okay, so in term 2 you would have something like this. Okay, so you have report display 2 and report display 5, which makes up your term 2 mark, final mark, which can actually be controlled through your weightings. Or even you could have the term 2 final mark push through into your report display 7, and on your report, if you sum one of those schools that shows the class mark and the exam mark and the final term 2 mark, you could have all three of those marks pushed through. You don't even need to use the weighting for it to calculate that mark, or you can leave it exactly the same as it is, and it will all filter through to where it needs to be without getting carried away in terms of changing report design or anything like this. Right, folks, for a second time around, that concludes this tutorial, and we will be in touch with follow-up material.